What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. We're currently a full house here in the shop. If you don't remember, there's a huge drain in this bay. It's the bane of my existence because you can't really do anything here than park a car over it. That's it. That is because we had a huge thunderstorm come through here this morning. Lots of downpouring rain and heavy winds. And we have Kayla's 83 944 in here now because we're going to be prepping this for the Overcrest Rally in Arkansas in just a couple of weeks. I don't think there's a lot of parts that we need to order. We do need to order some BBS RS waffle plates. We lost one recently and we want to replace an old one that we have as well. But other than that, I think the car is basically ready to go. But since you saw the car on the channel last, it's when Elliot from 944 Barn and I did a full coilover conversion on this car. So the sun is out, the weather has passed. I think it's supposed to get worse again tonight, but for now we got the doors open. I want to do an oil change on this as well, so I'm going to get it racked up. Make sure everything's tight because we've driven it a bunch since we did the coilover swap and the full rear end conversion too. We went to the aluminum rear trailing arms to the white 944 rear end in it. Just do a bolt check, make sure everything's good. And I'll say now, if it's noticeable on camera, I am severely under the weather right now. So I'm gonna do my best through this episode because this is what we got going on in the shop and I wanna make sure I document it. Also working on a job on the laser machine, so I am multitasking. So I've decided to get the auto union out of the lift bay and get the 944 in now because we're 2 weeks away from leaving for the Overcrest Rally. But next week, we're gonna be gone on a last second trip that is a part of some huge news I have to share with you guys. And that means we won't be here next week to prep the car for the rally the week after. So we're doing this now. All right, 944 is up in the air, rear wheels off, getting better access to the rear coilovers. We're gonna take the rear up a little bit. Now this is an 83, this is a first year US market 944. Notable for the only year in America that they came with a manual steering rack, which a lot of like the race car 944 guys want. It's got the removable roof, the big sunroof that is removable, it's mechanical. But this had the steel trailing arm rear end originally. These trailing arms here were steel with a big box lower shock mount. What we did at Elliot's at 944 Barn was we did a full weight 944 rear end swap. The torsion tubes are the same, but we did swap that. We did a rear sway bar, we did a front sway bar. We did the aluminum trailing arms, late model axles, and rotors. Rotors were different because of the hub bore on the outside of the drum. So we've done all of that, and we did the reaction coilovers. We took the torsion bars right out. No torsion bars at all, coilovers only. These mounts have no track record of failing with the weight of the car on them. We upgraded the bolt itself, so the bolt is strong. Shouldn't have any issues there. A lot of guys race 944s with this setup and put them through heavy abuse. So we have no reason for concern there. And basically these reaction coilovers, they're a new company or a new application for this company, for the 944. And a lot of people have kind of talked about how the fronts don't go low enough, but go higher than stock. And the rears don't go high at all and will go as low as you'd ever want to dump the car, which is a terrible combination. It should be the other way around, honestly. So I'm gonna crank the rear up a bunch more in hopes that we can get a good looking forward rake on this car for the rally. We're gonna get a proper alignment done at my buddy's shop, Quick Everett's Garage, before we leave as well. That way we're dialed in front and rear for the new height. Got the front sway bar here. So aside from doing some bolt checks, I have a lot of stuff up front to fix and reconnect. The front bumper, almost like every mount, like even that one in there, doesn't have a bolt That side, no bolt. This side over here, broken. It's a wonder the plastic valance part of the bumper is even on at all. That bracket there's no bolts in that. Wow. This is another example why I need a bolts and nuts bin in this shop. All right, so put a wrench or socket on everything back here, and everything's tight except the dreaded 944 axles. And I've heard this before, that a lot of these bolts will come loose or back out. In this car, before we did this rear end swap a couple years ago, we were at a red light, and when the light turned green and I let the clutch out, there was this loud bang and the car wouldn't move. We pushed the car out of the road, and when I crawled underneath, the passenger side outer axle bolts had all backed out, and there was only like 2 left that had backed all the way out, and the whole axle joint had come out of the spindle, essentially, out of the knuckle. We had no tools. I was able to finger tight the last 3 that were still there and limp the car home. Ever since then, I keep an eye on it. These are a triple square socket head, just like the Volkswagens, the Mark 1, Mark 2 Volkswagen axles. Definitely going to bring that triple square socket with us on the rally, just in case. So that is super scary. If you have a 944, crawl under it with a triple square and just check your axles, because it might pop out one of these days if it's getting loose. All right, so I'm working on the valance here that has sagged and sagged and sagged and kind of formed its own memory. This bracket here went to the back of the fog light housing. Now that's only plastic, but this bracket, as you can see up in here, there are some threaded holes right here, right? And that's on the frame horn of the car. And this is the lip. And this guy bridged the two, right? So essentially, this bolted to the valance, and you press the valance up, and then you'd bolt it to the frame horn. There was nothing holding it to the frame horn. I checked the other side. The other side looks like I can get it pressed up enough. Now you can see that top bolt is like coming out. So this was long overdue to be addressed. Well, we got the front valance looking much, much better. And it's tight now, too. This whole thing was super floppy. It was just kind of wiggle in the wind. Comparable gaps. I reaffixed this support here for the side. And this one over here is actually broken. So I'm going to address this one next. This here, the actual plastic broke. The other side's got a metal bracket, and this side is plastic, and it's snapped right off. And although this isn't the end of the world, we're here, and what I think I want to do is there's a bolt here. I'll take this bolt out, ditch this piece of plastic, and I'm going to utilize this bolt here. There's a washer behind this bolt, and what I think I might do is take that washer out and put a tab behind it, and use some rod stock I have to follow this angle down to another tab here and bolt it in on both ends. All right, well, I just took some time to make this bracket support. I'm gonna hold this side of the bumper, a little bit of rod stock, put a twist in it, and just welded it up. She's still pretty warm, but now just going to paint it. All right, we are painted up and dried. Just something quick, but better than nothing. Well, that is the side of the bumper secured. And aside from a pretty good break and a shoddy fix at some point, this thing is leaps and bounds better than it was when we pulled it in the shop here. This side got fixed as well. This has a metal bracket already, so I was able to just replace the hardware in that. And yeah, we are good up front. So I think what I'll do next is we will do an oil change and an overall fluid check, and just make sure she's ready in all other departments. All right, car's down, front wheels are on, everything seems to be tight. Oil filter's right here, sits inverted, and as you can see, there's not a lot of space. The frame rail is right there. Your distributor runs off the cam is right here. Everything's pretty tight, so you don't have enough room to get a traditional oil filter wrench on it. And this is the first oil change we've done in Kayla's 944, but my 924S came with the 2.5 in it as well, not the 2-liter Audi motor, Volkswagen Audi motor. The 924S, the 2 years they made that car, came with the Porsche 2.5 in it. So it had the same setup, and I remember it being pretty tight. So that's when I went, I can't believe I didn't have one of these before, but I finally bought one of these. So you can get right down onto the very top of the filter and take it off this way. And it's got a 3/8 square in it, so you just use a 3/8 drive extension. Hopefully that filter wasn't put on with an impact gun. I feel like every time I do an oil change for the first time on a car, the previous person just used the wrench to put it on. Nice. All right, oil filter is in, snug down. So for oil, down here at our ROWE cart, I don't stock too much for ROWE here in the shop because I primarily use their vintage 2050 in all the air-cooled cars, and even the 7 Series, even the E23 around 2050 in that. I've seen people run 540 in the 944s, but I've been planning on running the 2050 this whole time. But I just called my buddy Elliot from 944 Barn to see what he runs in these, because he is the foremost expert on these cars, and he too runs 2050. So that just kind of solidified what I was originally going to do. We'll run the 2050 in the 944. We don't have to worry about super cold temps. You know, it's not a daily driver. It's a summer car for the most part. And huge shout out to ROWE for helping the shop out, keeping me stocked up on oil. I am so excited that they're going to be carrying their heavy duty diesel 1540 oil here in America very soon. So we're going to have another cart next to this one carrying all the oil I'll need for the F-250 with the 7.3 turbo diesel in it. So I'm super excited about that. ROWE is a German oil company, as I'm sure a lot of you guys already know. And even this 2050, they make for Porsche. So all the branded 2050 Porsche oil is made by ROWE in Germany. But they service heavy-duty diesels in Europe, and that oil should be coming here very soon. I'm hoping by the end of fall, we'll have another cart here with the ROWE 1540. If you want to pick up ROWE oil, you can go to USP Motorsport as well. I keep forgetting to plug that because a lot of people will ask where you can get ROWE if you just want a couple tins of the 2050. So I've left the link in the video's description below to USP Motorsport. You can go there to get all of this ROWE oil yourself. I totally forgot that there is no battery tie down in this car. And if we are going to be driving some rugged dirt roads through the Ozark Mountains, we need a battery tie down. So luckily the bracket is in on this side. You can kind of see it. The lip of the battery can fit into that. We're just missing the plate that goes down over this stud and then fits over the lip of this side of the battery. So all I got to do is make that plate with an eyelet in it, help hold it down, so this thing does not do a whole bunch of cartwheels and gymnastics in this battery box while we're on the rally. Alright, so it took a little bit of time to whip something up in CAD. I know I'm going over the top here, but if you can cut something with a computer, why not, right? So this is just off of my preliminary measurements. Let's see. Oh, that could work. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's got enough reach. Maybe I make it a little bit longer. All right, we'll cut a cool little custom battery tie-down bracket plate. This is 16 gauge steel, so plenty strong enough to hold that battery down on that lip. I might give it a bend, I don't know. Let's put it in the car first. We'll see if it needs a little bit of a bend up. But let us see what it looks like here. All right. You know, I bet if I just tighten that down, that's gonna stay right there. All right, that worked perfectly. Got our standoff washer with the nut on top, and our plate. Our plate flexed a little bit, but it kind of flexed in the way I wanted it to, so it kind of lays over the bottom lip of the battery a little bit better. But she's tight. She ain't going nowhere. All right, I'll take it back out. We'll shoot some paint on it. We'll get it back in. And I think that is almost buttoning up our preparation on this car. All right, we are painted and we are installed custom. All right, guys, well, I think that almost tidies up all the preparation for this car, with the exception of like some aesthetics we want to do for the rally. As you can see, it's getting late now. It's been a long day. A tree fell on the house today, like a big tree, like damage to the house. So been cutting up some wood over there. It's been a brutal week. I'm like maybe feeling a little bit better, than when I started this episode. No matter where I'm at with this car in the morning, which means done, I have to drop this off at Quick Everett's garage to get an alignment while we're gone next week. Because starting this weekend, we are preparing for a week trip, which I'll fill you guys in on. So I'll catch up with you guys in the morning. I've got a ton of editing to do, which is the episode that you guys have already seen before this one. There's so much to do. All right, next day, and it is clearly not nicer out. Indeed, it's still raining pretty heavily. So that kind of puts a damper on, just kind of wanting to do some driving with this thing before we take it over to Perry's at Quick Everett's garage. Rear suspension is brought up a little bit. It's looking much better. I think once we get a bunch of tools and our luggage and all that in the back for the rally, I might take it up a couple more turns because I'm going to bring a small floor jack and some tools, some spare parts. So that might actually settle down a little bit more. I just hate how tall the front is. Like I said, we'll mess with the coilovers later. This height might be good for the rally just in case we encounter some really rough roads. Okay, we are ready to rip over to Quick Everett's in the rain, unfortunately, but fortunately the wipers work in Kayla's 944. This thing starts so well too. And being a first year 944, it's got the yellow gauges. That is the coolest 944 gauge cluster ever. And I like the early 944 dash better myself. I mean, I know the oval one is really cool too, but man, yellow. The 944 really should have come in this color. It is so sharp. Rear Euro bumper was definitely the move. Makes the car look so much better. All right, we're here at Quick Everett's garage. Just dropped the 944 off with Perry. Talked with him for much longer than we expected to. But before we leave, we'll show you some of the cool stuff he's got in here. 964. Although they got some ROWE gear in here. Love that. No. Definitely more my speed. 964 on the D90s too. So sick. 944 tucked in for now. We'll be gone for the next week, so she'll live here at Quick Everett's. Getting the alignment. So that is going to do it for this episode. This was just a fill in the gaps episode because this is what I had going on before we leave on our trip. And details about that trip coming up very soon. Going to share some big news with you guys in a coming episode. Next episode maybe. Also, lots of really cool stuff here. Newer and older. Check this out. Early 924 with the super ugly American side markers. B4 wagon. Never see those anymore. Mark IV GLI. Again, my speed. I meant to ask Perry what the deal was on this thing. I know that you got to be pretty smart and not touch one of these things with a 10-foot pole, but I've always wanted to bag an old Rolls Royce or Bentley. These things are so cool. They remind me of my Toyota Century because it's hard to figure out what year it is. They kept them looking vintage all the way through their production years. Like the front end, the grill, that straight up grill with the hood mascot. My Century was a 91, and it looked like a 1960 something. Maybe one day on the channel, we'll bag an old Rolls Royce, maybe motor swap it, something. That'd be pretty cool. For now, that's going to do it for this episode, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Lots coming, lots of new stuff coming on the channel. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Again, I appreciate all of your support. We'll see you in the next episode.